Hey everyone, this video will go through changes to the Nazi Party between 1924 and 1929. So this is when Hitler gets out of prison, up to the Wall Street crash that causes the Great Depression, but that is the next video in the sequence, so I won't go into too much detail now. So the first thing you're going to need to do is your date and title and task, and your task today is to explain in 4 sentences why political parties target young people in their campaigning, because we're going to be looking at the Hitler Youth, which is effectively the Nazi version of the Boy Scouts. And I just want your opinions about why political parties target young people. So if this is a show my homework lesson, you'll do that on paper. If this is a live lesson and your teacher's on Teams, please can you type those 4 sentences into the chat box. So pause the video, date, title and task. If you're following this scheme of work online, you should have already got these key terms, but just in case you don't, we are going to be using them all today, so I thought I'd go through them again. So the NSDAP is the Nazi Party, a shortened version of the National Socialist German Workers' Party. Führer means leader. Reich means empire or Germany as a nation. And Sturmbannteilung is the SA or the Nazi Protection Squad or Nazi Army, depending on your definition. So pause the video and get down any definitions you didn't know. So to start us off then, I've got 3 questions for us just to kind of recap the context of Hitler's original rise to power in the political scene. So why do you think Hitler would target the peasant or poor group of citizens in terms of campaigning to get their votes? What do you think Hitler was telling the citizens of Germany to earn their trust? And for that, you're going to need to think in context about what's going on at the time. And finally, just a recap on why Hitler's trial might be considered a good thing for Hitler. So pause the video and have a go at those questions. So the answers I came up with was the fact that they were poor and Hitler was claiming he could get them out of poverty. And also, some farmers liked his land redistribution ideas in his 25-point programme that we looked at in a previous video. So Hitler was telling citizens of Germany various things to earn their trust, including the fact that he could provide money, jobs, strong leadership, unlike Weimar, and he promised to make Germany great again. And yes, you have heard that phrase before. And Hitler's trial could be considered a good thing because it made him, and crucially his ideas, famous. Now, there was, after Hitler's trial, no one in Germany pretty much that didn't know his name or know that he had exposed the weaknesses of Weimar and exposed the unfairness of the Treaty of Versailles, if they didn't know it already. So pause the video and make sure you add in any details that you may have missed out. So we're going to have a look now at what happened to the Nazi Party during and after Hitler getting out of prison. So without Hitler, when he's in prison, obviously the Nazi Party was banned after their failed putsch in Munich. They literally tried to forcibly overthrow the government, so they banned their political party. However, they still met in secret, so the Nazis never actually go away. And Rosenberg is kind of chosen to lead the Nazis, but he is a very weak leader. He doesn't have Hitler's charisma or control. And because of that, the party ends up splitting into small factions. So rather than being the Nazi Party, they were just various different groups. But not all of them followed the same rules, the same layout, had the same policies, and understandably, as a political party, that doesn't work. You have to be united to get votes. But when Hitler gets out of prison, Hitler convinces the leaders to reinstate the Nazi Party. So the Nazi Party is allowed to work again as a political party, and Hitler begins to rebuild it, but obviously allowing only his closest allies, his closest supporters, to help him lead. So you're going to need to pause the video, do yourself a subheading, get down those points, and do the task in red as well. You need to explain why Hitler would choose only his closest allies to help him lead. And again, don't overthink that question. So then we come to perhaps the time of most change for the early Nazi Party, and that's the Bamberg Conference in 1926. Now, Bamberg is just a city, and a conference is like a big meeting where loads of decisions are made. So it's the big Nazi Party conference, and there are four key changes that are made. The first one is that Strasser is made propaganda leader and Goebbels is made Gauleiter, or local party leader of Berlin. Now, I'm sure you guys will be familiar with the name Goebbels, and he is made propaganda minister later on, but originally it's this man called Strasser. And you can see an example of a propaganda poster on the right there with all those hands. Propaganda is a really, really useful tool because it can convey messages in like a really accessible way. Like I don't speak German, but those hands are all saying yes, and it's talking about Gross Deutschland, which I know is about having a greater Germany, and everyone seems to be agreeing. So that's obviously telling people to agree with specific Nazi policies. And again, it's very simple, so everyone can understand it. The second change that happens is that Rome is fired as leader of the SA. Now, we're going to come across Rome in the next few chapters because he's quite an important part of the Night of the Long Knives, where he's actually killed by Hitler's Nazi party, but I won't ruin the story now. But he is fired as leader of the Nazi army, basically because Hitler doesn't feel he can trust him to follow his orders, so Rome is fired. You also then get the SS, or the Schutzstaffel, who are formed as Hitler's personal bodyguard unit. They wear black, so they're known as the black shirts, and they kind of branch out in terms of their career later on. Like these are the ones that go and work in the concentration camps, but originally they're Hitler's personal bodyguard. And then the final massive thing that is introduced in the Bamberg Conference is the Hitler Youth. Now, again, there'll be a separate lesson on the Hitler Youth, but as you can see from this picture, it is the Nazi version of Boy Scouts and Girl Guides. And they're kept separate, but they're very, very gender specific. So boys are taught fighting skills, military drills, and you can see their uniform is very army based. And the girl version, the League of German Maidens, is all about motherhood and health and home care. So you'll notice there are 4 questions in red and 4 black bullet points. So you're going to need to pause the video, do yourself a subheading, get down those black bullet points, and then answer those red questions, obviously in full sentences. Now you might want to number the bullet points 1 to 4 and then the questions 1 to 4, or just do the black bullet point and then the red question because they all match up. It's entirely up to you. So pause the video and get that all down, please. Also, some massive changes in Hitler's leadership later on that you need to be aware of. So he becomes Der Führer, which is effectively the undisputed leader of the Nazi Party. He gets everyone on his side, so there isn't really anyone who wants to have that leadership role. The 25-point programme also becomes Nazi official policy, but one point is just slightly changed to say land would only be confiscated from a Jew, and that allows pretty much everyone in Germany, to, unless you're Jewish, to like that policy. So it's a slight U-turn, but it is literally designed to make him more popular. They also switched to trying to attract rural Germans, so Germans that live in the countryside as well. So previously they just looked at urban, or people that live in the cities and towns, because it was felt that that was where there was most economic problems. But actually, as we go through the late 20s, farmers face their own economic problems where there are like prices decrease, so they're not making as much money. So Hitler and the Nazi Party start trying to make policies and propaganda to attract those rural Germans. In terms of membership numbers, in 1925 it stands at 27,000, and by 1928, so that's only 3 years later, that membership has risen to over 100,000, and that's mostly because it attracted pretty much everyone: men, women, old, young, rich, poor, basically anyone that wasn't Jewish. However, that doesn't translate as seats. So in the German parliament, which is known as the Reichstag, they actually lose seats. So even though their popularity increases, it doesn't translate to any like government jobs. But that's mostly because 1924 to 1928 are the Stresemann years, so actually people are relatively happy with what Weimar are doing, because they're increasing Germany's economic ability, their worldwide status, everything like that. So although they liked Hitler's policies, they preferred the stability that Stresemann was giving them. And finally, as mentioned, Strasser is replaced with Goebbels as propaganda minister. Goebbels is that man underneath on the right. He is an absolutely crucial person that you know, and he remains propaganda minister for all of the rest of Hitler's leadership over Germany, until he poisons himself, his wife, and his 6 children in their hot chocolate. That's a fun fact for you. So you know the drill by now. Pause the video, do yourself a subheading, and get down those points. We're going to have a go at practicing a crucial skill now, which is looking at this idea of purpose. Now, when you look at purpose, you're kind of just being asked why something was made. So the purpose of a stop sign on a road is to get cars to stop because it's not safe for them to keep going. The purpose of the behaviour policy at school is to make sure you're not running riot and are in fact learning purposefully. You can apply purpose to propaganda. So propaganda is just any form of media with a message. I've given you an example on the right. So you've got Hitler and then a very simple, very quick phrase at the bottom. One people, one country or community, depending on your translation, and one Führer. Now, I'm not going to tell you what the purpose of this is. Instead, I'm just going to draw your attention to some facts and see what you come up with yourself. So pay attention to his style of dress, his pose, his facial expression, and where his eyes are looking. The phrase, one people, one country, one leader. And the fact that this is an election campaign poster. So I'd like you now in your books to write a P paragraph. So point, evidence, explain. What is the purpose of this source? Why was this source made? So pause the video and give that a go. It's going to be 3 or 4 sentences long. So this is Task we are going to use to check that you are all listening and doing the work correctly. So you're going to need to email this to your teacher. So it's up to you whether you want to type it straight into an email or do it on your paper and send us a picture, that's fine. So I'm asking your opinion. What was the most important change to the Nazi Party between 1924 and 1929? So do you think it was Goebbels' propaganda minister? Do you think it was the Hitler Youth? Do you think it was Hitler's title, the adaptation of the 25-point program? Like pretty much anything you've bullet pointed down today can be the most important change. But again, it's your opinion, and you need to justify your answer. You need to explain why it was important, and also why is it more important than the other changes. That is the last task, and again, you're going to need to email that to your teacher. Once you've done that, don't forget to go and do the Show My Homework quiz as always. Bye!